Because I have used your name so many times about this summer, because we basically went up enough to where it should apply. Why doesn't it this time? And simply put, if interest rates or if unemployment, if the rate goes up enough, you would expect a recession. You don't expect it this time.
I don't think we're in a recession right now. Frankly, the Sahm rule has triggered. It's hit its 0.5 percentage point increase threshold that historically would happen in the early months of a recession, not a forecast, happens in the early months. And the U.S. economy is not in a recession right now. Now, the Sahm rule, using the increased unemployment rate, is picking up on a cooling, a weakening in the labor market, but that's not all that's there. We do have a still very disrupted labor market. We have a lot of labor supply coming in, new workers, whether it's immigrants or people coming off the sidelines, because we've had a great labor market. So that's a good thing, but it takes time for them to get work. And right now the hiring rate has fallen back, and so it starts showing up in unemployment, and that is a problem, but it's not a recession problem. Just as serious, just not the same thing. So this time is so unusual and so different. Many indicators have fallen by the wayside. So the whole project of carefully tracking the labor market, looking for indicators of a recession, that's an important one. We should keep at that. But right now we've got to be really careful with historical patterns.
The inversion doesn't work. The NFL, NFC, AFC indicator doesn't work for the Super Bowl. Nothing. We can't count on anything. But your point is, normally, if it wasn't unprecedented, if we didn't have a once in 100-year pandemic and the after effects, that maybe we wouldn't be seeing the situation. Is that right?
We wouldn't see the summer, I think, triggering the recession level. We've already seen enough weakening in demand for workers that say it ought to jumpstart the Fed into action. The Fed typically does not wait until a recession to start cutting, right? They try to get ahead of it. So we've already seen that weakening. So the Sahm rule is telling us something is happening. It's just maybe dialed up a little too high, or telling us the wrong signal. Again, a higher unemployment rate is a problem. We have people who want to work, who are capable of working, who just don't have those jobs. Like, that's a problem in what we're losing out in output and productivity, so it's an issue. It's just, the flavor is a little different this time, but that shouldn't breed complacency.
How many people right now do you think are at the right age to be working and find it just as advantageous not to be working? Is that really something that, we heard about it a lot when there were a lot of extraordinary stimulus and measures during the pandemic. Is there some residual to that? And I'm referencing a piece in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week about the bottom quintile and what type of government-funded benefits are available versus years ago. Is that hurting things, do you think, Claudia?
To the extent that it was holding back people from being in the labor force, and that's really questionable, but to the extent it was, that is far in the rearview mirror. Those extraordinary pandemic support programs for the unemployed, they are long since expired. And there's a lot of evidence that particularly lower income families have whatever that extra, padding they put in place from the pandemic relief, a lot of that quote unquote excess savings has been drawn down. And frankly, if you look at the employment, the participation rates of prime age, so working age adults, they are really at high levels. People want to be working in a way that wasn't, even true, before the pandemic. So that's a really positive sign. What the most disconcerting metric on the labor market right now is the hiring rate. It is back to levels in 2014 when we had a 6% unemployment rate. If you are looking for work right now, it is much harder than it is if you have a job and keeping a job. And that's a problem. We need those hiring rates up so we get those young adults and others who want to rejoin labor force back to work.
Would you do 50 or 25?
Absolutely 50. I think the inflation data on its own, we got 2 more months of good inflation data. That's what the Fed asked for. That on its own would have gotten us 25 next week. as it should, and will get us a whole string of cuts after that. The federal funds rate is over 5% and has been there for over a year to fight inflation. That fight is won. They need to start getting out of the way. And then what we've really learned since the July FOMC meeting is the labor market has weakened. And even what we thought we knew about the labor market last July has gotten weaker. We've had revisions to months, annual revisions that look like they're going to be pretty weak. So there's an aspect of just recalibrating. We got some more information. Need to kind of clean it up, do a 50 basis point cut, and then be ready to do more. And especially if Powell wants to deliver on his, we want no further weakening, no further cooling, they are going to have to like really move here, because there is that cooling trend is well established. And until it is interrupted, we are going to continue to see payrolls drift down and unemployment rate drift up.
Very good. All right, Claudia Sahm of the Sahm rule. Is it fame? I think it's fame. It's fame among certain circles. It is with us here on the set. But thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Meantime, Biden